Hi guys and welcome, Gnembon here. Today I am extremely excited, not only because we have recently reached 10,000 subscribers and 500,000 views, but mainly because I have an awesome tool to share with you today. And it is the new and updated Carpet mod for Minecraft 1.12. It allows to use your regular vanilla client and your own regular vanilla worlds with a few extra bits that can completely change the way you design and create your farms and contraptions. Yes, this mod is created mainly with technical players in mind, but some of the new functions of this mod may appeal to all types of players, builders, PvPers, etc. In this video I'll cover all the functionalities of this mod, the improved past ones and a few completely new additions. So first, an overview of all the functions, and then I'll follow them with a few examples, so sit back and enjoy. First function, and the one that appealed to many players thus far, is controlling game speed by using a tick command. Internally, the game runs in ticks, exactly 20 of them per second, and with tick rate command we can change it to any number you want. So we have here our random light path generator, which in fact is just a Sir Creeper running away from a few cats. With tick rate we can speed him up like 5 times, in this case to 100 ticks per second, or we can just slow him down. Since the time runs slower only on the server side, we can move as normal, just the world around us is kinda slowed down. This has some benefits, like the fact that we are not affected by slower or faster movement, but on the other side, some animations, especially pistons, are not perfectly synchronized, just to keep this in mind. In order for this to work perfectly the same way, you would need also a separate client mod to slow the animations as well. Other option for tick command is tick warp feature, which instructs the server to run the game as fast as it can for a set amount of ticks. Since there are 20 ticks in a second, running for example tick warp 24,000 will run the game as fast as it can for the next full Minecraft day, so 20 minutes. Awesome tool if you need to test a contraption or a farm for a long amount of time but you don't want to wait. With a good computer and a proper empty flat world, running your game 100 to 1000 times faster is not uncommon. Also, running the game in warp speed can test the impact of contraptions on the server TPS, because once the warp is done, we'll see how fast the game was capable to run our stuff, indicating how computationally expensive it was. When the game is in a warp mode, if we need to abort it for whatever reason, we can just type tick warp 0 to stop the current warp. The new and awesome addition is the callback option, which is just a command added to the end of the tick warp call, which will be executed when the warp is successfully completed. This allows for a very powerful way to control a timed experiment, especially using command blocks with a combination of other tools from the Carpet mod like spawn command or hopper counters, but I'll go back to it in the examples. Flippin' Cactus is the next and completely new addition to the mod. When holding a cactus block in your main hand or offhand, you can literally flip blocks in place. Since the main purpose of this mod was to be used by technical players, it focuses mostly on technical blocks, so we can flip pistons, droppers, observers, and rotate other ones like repeaters, comparators, trapdoors, which is especially handy when placing a specific type block in a certain situation is hard to do. It is one of these things I would be more than glad to see in regular vanilla game, even just for creative players. But flipping Cactus can also rotate and spin other types of blocks, not redstone related, like slabs, as well as glazed terracotta, which is just paint to place properly. A special treatment has also been made to the stairs. If you knock it on the right hand side, it spins one way. If you knock it on the left hand side, it spins the other way. If you knock it on top or at the bottom, it flips upside down. Imagine correcting all the stairs placement you botched up with this tool. Now, why Cactus? Because I can see this question coming, and the answer is fairly technical. Since this mod has to work with pure vanilla clients, it just happens that the client will not send a right-click action for a tool or an item that doesn't have it, with the exception of placing blocks, and Cactus is just yet another block that just cannot be placed in most situations. So if you right-click anything with a cactus, despite the fact that the client knows very well that it cannot do anything with it, this message is actually sent to the server, which we can then use to flip the blocks. And because we are using here vanilla unmodified client, this difference of what client thinks is doing and what server actually does can be clearly seen on some examples, like for example on repeaters, where here we can see the right-click action first changes the delay on the client side, and then server responds, you have actually flipped the block rather than increased the delay. So this is just a side effect of implementing this flipping tool server side only. What is also very important is that rotating block will not cause any updates to the neighboring blocks, which is pretty useful. Command summon player does what it says in the tin, and is a new, really cool and very useful addition to the pack. it spawns a creative player with a fully mocked up, or in other words, made up connection to the server. We cannot interact with him nor do anything with him, but what he can do is just sit around, load chunks around him like a normal player, so in this regard behaves like a modded chunk loader. It causes all the mobs to spawn around him as well, as it ticks random blocks around, which causes, for example, crops to grow. Extremely useful if we need to check how the mobs are behaving and we are the only player in the world. Check on this example. Let's assume we want to observe how fishes are behaving in the Guardian drop in XP farm, but if we are in game mode 3, mobs just stop spawning. To fix it, we can just spawn a player, and now he will be causing mobs to spawn, so we can observe how they do it. Fake players will also stay in the game even if we log out, as long as the server is still running, which is a great way on saving on screen time when doing longer tests. And I know, this could be used for cheating in regular survival, but this tool was made in creative process in mind, but if you want to cheat with it, it's up to you. The creation of a player can be fully customized location and dimension wise, and these fake players can even load entire dimensions from scratch. Exactly what would happen if a regular player would log in that particular location. For instance, we can spawn Notch above the exit end portal in the end. And if we travel to the end, we should be able to find him there. A few words of caution: these fake players are normal but local to the server players, so they don't have a skin, and if we summon somebody that can typically play with us, this might cause a little bit of confusion in the player files, and we won't be able to log in until that player is removed or the server restarts. In general, all the changes that the Carpet mod does to the world are temporary, so these fake players need to be resummoned when the server restarts. To remove summoned players, just use vanilla kill command with the desired effect. Oh, and the fact that when summoned, message about joining appears twice, this is actually intended. It's just a technicality, otherwise it wouldn't be possible to move players with bot connection to a set position unless we relog him, so there's nothing to worry about. Another function of the Carpet mod is hopper counters. If a hopper is pointing to a wool block, instead of keeping items in its inventory, it'll get rid of them and add them to the global counters for that specific color he's pointing to. This way we can count items with hopper pickup speeds up to 500,000 items per hour and do it in the most lag-friendly way, and all of it on 16 different channels. Typing /counter will display all the items so far on all the channels. Typing /counter with a specific color will display items only for that channel. /counter real time will display any of this information measured in real life seconds, not in-game seconds. And typing /counter reset will restart all the counters, or with a specific color, only on that channel. Since it's a relatively gameplay safe and non-cheaty part of the Carpet mod toolbox, you can only get rid of items this way, you can use this functionality without commands. Placing green carpet on the ground or white wool will display status of all the counters, placing it on a specific wool color only for that counter. And doing the same for the red carpet will reset either one or all the counters channels. So in case you are on a creative server with other people, they can still count and measure their creations without having access to the commands. Next on the list is the spawn command, which is a very broad and complex tool to control and monitor mob spawning, and mobs in general. /spawn list with coordinates will tell you what can spawn and how likely in that particular spot. Placing pink carpet does exactly it, telling what can spawn on the block that you place the carpet on. First on the list is the information what is the maximum Y value considered for spawning in this particular X and Z column, and where you are with regards to that limit. And this follows with a long list of all possible mobs that could ever naturally spawn in this location. It starts with the mob group of a particular mob, followed by its name, chances of being selected within its mob group in brackets, maximum size of the pack to spawn, typically 4 mobs. Can this mob spawn in this location? We can see squids cannot spawn here, we are just probably too low for them. Will it fit in terms of collisions with applicable entities and blocks? The pink carpet you just placed doesn't count. And if all of this is okay, what are the odds of spawning? These odds, as well if the mob fits, are calculated by spawning off 1000 mobs of the same category and testing the results. So you might occasionally see a random skeleton, spider, chicken or a base ocelot popping up for a second is because some mobs spawn in company like jockeys or cat families. These extra mobs will blink for a split second and will be removed. They are just a side effect of a proper Monte Carlo testing that I do here to get these results. Some mobs like slimes in this case will have inconclusive results, and that's because some variants of that mob will and some won't fit in this space, hence yes and no answers in a few places. Command /spawn mobcap, /spawn entities, /spawn rates, or just placing a black carpet anywhere will display you information for each mob group, what is the current mobcap, currently loaded entities for that group, and how many times per tick each group is attempted to spawn. In normal game it is always once per tick, but it can be changed with carpet mod. All that displayed information is dimension specific, indicated by the optional E for the end and N for the nether letters. If there are more than one player at the moment in one or more dimensions, this information might not be telling you what you want, just be aware of that. Placing black carpet on a specific wool crowd type, indicating each mob group, will list you all the mobs from that group currently loaded in the game along with the current location. Useful to test if nothing has spawned in, for example, a perimeter you are building. Command /spawn entities followed by the group types displays the same information. /spawn mobcap with a number changes the mobcaps for hostile mobs from default 70 to that number and scale up mobcaps for other groups respectively. Typing spawn rates with a mob group and a number will set a specific number of spawn tries per tick for that group. So for instance, setting up spawn rates for hostile mobs to 0 will disable only hostile mobs to spawn. Setting passive mobs to 100 will allow us to get some other passive mobs to naturally spawn once the mobcap empties. /spawn mocking true will disable actual placement of the spawn mobs in the world, but still will attempt to spawn it, useful for example for inspecting a perimeter in creative, making sure that all the spawning spaces have been removed. That's all in terms of controlling mob spawning. For monitoring mob spawning we have spawn tracking command. If we type /spawn tracking start, from now on all the mobs will be remembered and counted in the game. New as of 1.12, you can also type /spawn tracking start with 2 sets of coordinates to track spawns only within that predefined area, useful if, for example, our farm is in some natural environment with other potential spawns around. When the server is in tracking mode, you can request tracking report by typing /spawn tracking, or type /spawn tracking with a specific mob group to get a list of 10 most recent spawns and locations within this group, even if these mobs are not existing anymore. While being in the spawn tracking mode, the role of the black carpet also changes. When placed anywhere, displays, instead of the mobcap information, a current spawn report, and placed on a specific wool block, the list of 10 most recent spawns for that mob group. Typing /spawn tracking stop returns the server to a regular impervious state, printing the final report. Tracking report displays information on the length of the tracking period, then within each mob group, how long spawning lasted for that group, which is affected by spawn rate parameter, what is the average number of mobs in each spawning cycle, indicating if we are close or far from the mobcap, and then 3 numbers. First is how many times mobcaps were full and the game did not attempt to spawn any mobs from this category, how many times the spawn tries were unsuccessful and not spawning any mob, and how many times were successful by spawning at least one mob. The last parameter indicates how many mobs on average were spawned within each of those successful attempts. This is then followed by an exhaustive list of all the mobs with their spawn counts and per hour ratings. Command /blockinfo, when run against a coordinate, will tell everything I managed to find about this particular location or block in question. By placing a grey carpet, we will obtain the same information about the block we are placing the carpets on top of. The information includes its name, ID and number, followed by material information how block is being seen by the game, is it solid, is it full block, is it normal cube. All of this is quite technical but important in different scenarios. This follows with light information about this block and location, some additional information about block features followed by its power status, and random wandering chances at this location. The last 2 bits of information are gathered again using the Monte Carlo approach, so in some edge cases it may take some time to obtain this result, and the game might freeze for a moment. Entity info command is a completely new command displaying all sorts of information about all the entities that we select, and uses exactly the same entity selector format as, for example, the kill command. Except it doesn't kill anybody, just displays the info about them. The information includes name and location, who writes who type information, size, age, dimension if it's different than the invoker, burn time, fire immunity, explosion immunity, general invulnerability, portal cooldown, for items content and the spawn timer, XP values, item frame contents and rotation, painting names for paintings, health, armor, toughness, potion effects, item health, armor pieces, fall range, movement speed factor, base attack values, tracked attack target for withers each head separately, will it pick up loot, will it despawn, home position and radius for villagers, it will indicate what villages are they part of, time till adulthood and mating cooldown for parents, villagers' inventory and wealth, the total number of emeralds earned from players so far. And for horses, their jump and speed stats along with how good they are with respect to the perfect horse. And that's pretty much it. If you think this information is a little overwhelming, you can choose better your entity selector, or if you are interested in a specific stat, you can just use a grep function to display only these entries that match the required phrase or regular expression in general. Pretty cool stuff. Entity info command is linked to yellow carpet. By placing yellow carpet, we will be given information about up to 5 entities within up to 5 blocks from us that are not players for convenience. /unload command displays all the chunks that are currently loaded but not part of the spawn chunks nor in the range of any player, so it is just a list of all artificially loaded chunks that will be scheduled for unloading in the next save cycle. It's extremely useful in determining chunk loading and unloading problems and a couple other quite interesting things. /unload order command displays chunk unload order in that chunk or with a range of coordinates aggregating information about all the chunks in the area. The distance command tells the distance between 2 points measured in a sphere, cylinder, and Manhattan or taxicab distance. Non-OP players can use this tool as well by placing brown carpets in 2 separate locations. At the end, a bunch of really cool modifications to the game behavior that can be set using a Temporal command. As the name indicates, they are like game rules but are not saved in the world and will go away when the server restarts, thus keeping everything compatible with vanilla. First group of rules affect piston behavior. Quasi-connectivity and extended connectivity affect how pistons, droppers, and dispensers react to power applied from above. Turning off quasi-connectivity will bring the behavior compatible with the kids version of Minecraft. Push limit will change temporarily the block push limit from the default 12 to whatever you want. Speaking of Pocket Edition, in this version piston extensions can push more entities than in Java Edition. Setting Pocket Pushing to true will enable this behavior from the official now Minecraft version into Java Edition as well, bringing a little bit of compatibility between these versions. Despite quite a few requests, there is no temporal game mode to bring the translocation bug back because it was a bug and it got fixed, so that's all about it. Fill limit and fill updates are 2 rules that affect behavior of fill, clone, send block commands as well as structure blocks. Setting fill updates to false will prevent filled or cloned areas to cause any block updates. And a fill limit changes the limit of total blocks that can be affected by clone and fill commands. 2 simple settings that extremely improve the usefulness of all of these native tools. But more about will be in the examples section. Temporal display damage will put in the chat for a player that gets damage from any source full information how the final amount of damage was calculated and what were all the intermediate stages of these calculations, allowing to answer questions of type how much wearing elytra comparing to a full diamond gear affects the damage I'm taking, or what is better in UHC scenario, better enchanted iron gear or diamond gear with worse enchantments. There's also 1.8 spawning temporal that brings some spawning rules back from 1.8 in case one wants to compare all their mob farms designed in newer versions, and carpets option which when turned off disable all the client carpet functions. The last temporal settings is portal caching. In the default game there's this annoying thing that when you or any other entity moves through the portal, we can feel immense lag for a couple of seconds. It is because in this time the game scans up to 8 million blocks on the other side looking for existing portal blocks to link with the current portal. However, when you send another item up the same way, there is no lag anymore because the portal link has been cached and remembered for the next 15 to 20 seconds. After this time expires and we send another item or another entity through, the game searches again an 8 million block area searching for portal blocks, even if no new portals have been created or old one destroyed. The extra caching option turned by this setting enables second layer of caching that is based on updating portal blocks that tracks when portals are created and broken. With double portal caching, a link will always be valid as long as we haven't destroyed or created new portals. Now let me show you a few examples how all these settings and functions can be used in practice. Let's clone this contraption for a quick second. We have here a bunch of budded pistons, some observers, some rail layout. Yep, Native updates caused by moving the setup to a new location renders this native clone command pretty much useless in these settings. Changing a fill updates to false makes the clone command great again. However, you might want to update dynamic redstone elements as you please after you are done with cloning. Another great example. Let's make a perimeter for a farm. As you can see, I have already removed all the lava from this area using the method that I will be showing. And as you might expect, it did cause the server to time out and crash from all the light updates caused by lava removal. But that's fine, I started it back again and all the lava is now gone. So for a proper perimeter, we need to clean everything from Y0 to Y128 and let's say up to 160 blocks away from the central player location. Will it work? Obviously not, because 32,000 is not sufficient to cover 13 million block area. Thankfully, fill limit can be set up to 16 million blocks. I made it to match a typical perimeter size. So let's disable updates just in case to save a little bit of unnecessary block processing. Increase the limit and try again. It worked, all in-game without any need of using any external editors or repeating the same command on and on again with, let's say, 2 high slices at a time. Obviously, we are taking here full responsibility for increasing these limits, but in most cases it should all work just fine, assuming we are not causing too many light updates. Another classical example is quick and easy assessing and comparing farms' performance. We have here 2 sweeper-based sugarcane farms. One is connected to a daylight sensor, so triggering once in a Minecraft day, and the second one is a bit safer, triggering only if that one test sugarcane grows to its full size. This setup is obviously safer as sugarcane will only grow with a player nearby, but the trigger is much rarer, and it will be good to know which setup is better. So to measure the output, we will be using 2 separate hopper counters, and to speed up the assessment, tick warp command. Now just to be sure, this part of the video is not sped up. This is exactly what I see and you see in this video. So after a few minutes we can conclude the test that the safer and much less frequent setup is actually not that bad comparing to the regular harvesting every 20 minutes. So that's great. Another experiment is to find out which killing method for mobs yield more loss. We have here a hopper set on fire, only possible with fire tick off, hopper Minecraft inside a burning netherrack, and the classical fall damage. The last one is for sure lossless and the quickest. And as you can see, fire killing methods are rather slow and impractical, but we can still compare them in terms of how lossy they are. For that we'll be spawning creepers every second and count the results using hopper counters below. Here we will request to run the experiment exactly for 1 hour, and after it is done, we will stop the experiment by placing a stone block here in this location. Okay, so let's start it. And it's going. Okay, so by typing counter we can check the progress of the experiment, and as you can see it goes much faster and will be done in a few minutes instead of an hour. So as you can see, we might be losing some items on the hopper minecart, but it's pretty hard to tell, and the hopper method is definitely lossy, keeping only 75% of the items. At the end, a quick note about the mod itself. It's a server-side only mod, which you can install and use with your single-player worlds as well. In the description I linked the previous video I made on how to install it and use it with your single player, so if you had any troubles installing, please consult that video first. And since it's a server-side only mod, you can use any vanilla compatible client from your regular Minecraft launcher, like Optifine. The mod is fully transparent with your world, so at any time you should be able to go back to your own vanilla server or single player if you, for example, use this mod to fix some issues with your world, and now you want to go back, it shouldn't be an issue. So that's all what I have prepared for you today. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like, and if you used Carpet mod before or you are planning to use it on your own, please let me know in the comments so I know about it, and let me know maybe what functions you use the most, as well as if you have any suggestions for the future. That would be greatly appreciated. This mod is a constantly evolving project to improve the experience of playing mainly creative technical Minecraft. I'm adding new functions as they come up to my mind or from other people's suggestions, mainly other SciCraft members. So have a nice day and see you in the next one. Bye bye.